Hello and welcome to the Animator's Shake-Up, a webcast where animators talk about animation. On this episode, I chat with Abraham, a motion graphics designer who's passionate about minimal design and satisfying movements. Why not listen along while you work on your own animations and have us for company? So sit back, relax, as we shake it up with some fellow animators on the Animator's Shake-Up. Hello Abraham and welcome to the ice cream parlour, the Shake-Up ice cream parlour. How are you doing?
All good. It looks great in here, man. Love what you guys did with the walls and all the decorations.
Yeah,
Top notch.
the walls are great, in particular.
Yeah.
The funny thing is we're just surrounded by windows.
Yeah, just really airy. Love the landscape.
The landscape is beautiful actually. We've got a lovely set of mountains and trees. You've got the odd ice cream van will go past here and there.
Is that a dragon in the background as well? Love that.
No, that's just playing on your eyes there. I don't know. Don't do this to me, Abraham. Don't do this to me. Oh dear. But yeah, I noticed you got a drink in front of you there. What have you gone for?
I went with a coconut milkshake. Yeah, I haven't had one of these in a minute. When I was younger, I think after a church service, my dad would often take me and my siblings and my mom to a nearby ice cream place, and I would often get a coconut or chocolate ice cream, and wow. I'm just that's the closest thing to that flavor I can get.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, would that be, that coconut flakes, or is that coconut flakes and coconut milk, or is it just regular milk with coconut flakes? I feel like there's so many ways you can slice this.
Honestly, I never looked into it, but the coconut flakes were definitely a big part of it. A big part of the reason I kept getting it. It was win-win, right? You're not just drinking the thing, but you're eating the thing. How many? A win. I'm really getting my money's worth there. So
yeah, you're getting the full meal.
Exactly. Yeah, chewing and drinking at the same time. That's what else can you ask for?
It's efficiency.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah,
I want my milkshake as efficient as possible, please. I like chunks and smooth.
Exactly. It's a bit like how, I don't know. It's a bit of a stereotype, really. You know how men's shampoo. It's like a 3-5-in-1. It's like a shampoo, conditioner, dishwasher, rose oil. That's kind of what I'm aiming for. I just want everything all in one.
Yeah, and I want to be able to drink it, and I want it to taste like coconut.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true though. It's I don't know why. I am a complete sucker for this. I need it to do everything. There is no way that I'm going to buy a shower gel that doesn't do hair and body.
Right?
What is the point?
Yeah, come on. It's we're in 2024. We've sent humans up in space, and we've got these little computers in our pockets, and you're telling me that a shower gel just does shower gel shit? Come on. I don't know. This should double as a dishwasher or something.
Yes, science has gone far for a purpose, and we need to embrace it, especially in our shower gels. Yeah, that's it. Especially if you're going on a trip or a holiday somewhere. I was staying at a place in Grays recently for a wedding, and what hotel was it now? I think it was an Ibis or something like that. And I got to the room, and there was just nothing there to wash yourself with. But luckily, I had my all-in-one in my bag.
There you go.
It's just you gotta prep yourself ready for that kind of situation with minimal bag space.
Exactly, and I'm assuming you probably took a fraction of the bag space. That's all I'm after. Efficiency.
Yeah. Yeah, and going back to coconut, I feel like it's one of those flavors that, at least when I was younger, I used to despise the flavor of coconut. But as I've grown up, I have acquired a more refined palate.
Yeah.
And I'll dabble in a bit of coconut here and there.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, coconut water, I still think I think that's from the depths of hell.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but I think it does things like dirty water. Like, I feel like I really need to be in the mood. Like, I need to be like, I must have had some really good shit beforehand. Sorry, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Let's cut that out.
No, you can swear like.
Like, I must have had some really good like juices beforehand. Because if I start off with like coconut water, I'm like, I'm gonna go home. Like, this is not gonna go well.
The particular mood you have to be in to enjoy coconut water is sadistic.
Yeah.
There's all these people who are listening to this who are like, I love coconut water. What are you talking about?
Yeah, don't comment. We don't need your knowledge.
Just turn the podcast off immediately.
Not for you. This is for people who have like refined taste. I'm joking. It's a safe space for everyone. As long as you don't like vanilla, as long as you don't swear by vanilla, that's the only thing. I'm like, that's basic as hell. Come on, man.
Oh, do you mean like ice cream flavor, or do you mean like vanilla extract, vanilla
flavored things, ice cream? Like, that's so, like, don't get me wrong, it tastes good, but it's just like, you know, like, come on. It's like going to like imagine going to like the Pringles headquarters or whatever, and then you can walk home with like literally a dozen. Like a bag of a dozen Pringles, and then you like pick any flavor you want. Like, we've got the most exotic shit in the world, like sea salt from Armenia or whatever, or like spicy paprika and onions or whatever. And then you just like, nah, I just want the originals. Like, what is wrong with you? That's not.
Yeah, I think if you're just having it on its own, I don't quite get that. But I think if you're either like going to use it to lead up to something else, then these kind of more sort of plain flavors make sense. So for example, you know, when I go to McDonald's, or I used to, I don't really know anymore, but when I do, is the milkshakes I would get would be vanilla ones, because I'd be having it with other things, so it doesn't like
overpower.
It doesn't become the taste, you know. Like, you get to enjoy the other stuff, but it's just like refreshing. Exactly. I think it works for that.
Yeah, you get past for that. It's all good. Yeah.
There's some logic behind that. I'm not another sadistic. Yeah. I just drink coconut water and vanilla extract.
Yeah, I feel like that's the most hipster shit you could hear every now and then. Like, I just coconut water.
Yeah,
it's a safe space.
It's a good, like, I know my partner's had that in like smoothies and stuff. Like, he uses it as like almost like a mixer with other things. Like, I get that. I think that makes sense. But people who drink it on their own, it's like you get it in like a meal deal. Like, you just went with the coconut water.
Yeah, I was having a rough day, I guess.
And will continue to if they drink it. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, tell us a bit about you. Like, you know, we know your love of coconut, but we don't know much else. Like, you know, what do you do? What do you make? Tell us about, you know, what you do.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I was like, oh God, I hopefully I won't screw this up too much. I've never really been in a podcast or anything like that. But,
you can't. There's nothing to screw up. It's all good.
Yeah. Oh, you don't. I can screw up the unscrewable. You do not know me. Trust me.
We're ready.
But anyway, So no one knows because I'm no one online or in real life. But I'm Abraham. I'm a junior-ish motion designer at a studio called Buff Motion. Actually, should I have mentioned that? I don't know. For privacy, I don't know. Cut out. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm a motion designer at a wonderful studio in Brighton, and I essentially do motion design for brands, charities, and agencies at the studio. And it's really it can be really fun. There's a lot of really different projects to really sink your teeth in and try different things. But most importantly, the reason I kind of got into this was like, I always have like, I think everyone's got their own like little bag of references, or like little bags of like the thing that got them started into animation, illustration, or graphic design, or what have you. And I've just, over the years, I think I've just really watched, I was a very lazy kid, and I would watch a lot of TV, and I would just watch a crap ton of like, I would watch a lot of TV in addition to all the ads before streaming was a thing, right? Where you couldn't skip them. And I would just really I think it got to the point where I really kind of started liking like like the promos, like not all the promos, but like certain promos were like, oh damn, that's pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie, that was really nice. I wouldn't skip this if I could.
The promos, you mean like the sort of like idents between?
Not so much idents, but like say a simple example with this of this would be like so prior to design, I was really into like tech, like operating systems and Android and all that kind of stuff. And Google has been a big reference of mine for years, just because of the clean and sort of like clean and bold sort of like visual approach they take with the sort of like the branding and like on the motion design and all that kind of stuff. And I think when I was about 15 or 16. It was actually just before coming to the UK. I think they had like the yearly developer conference called Google I/O. They actually had the 2024 one recently, and the 2015 or 2014 edition one, they announced this thing called material design, and everyone who's ever spoken to me has had like I've mentioned it to them like every single time. Like it's always like everyone's like, oh, here he goes again, but. Yeah, it's gonna be a bit boring. I don't know. It might be a bit nerdy.
No, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Let's get into the nitty gritties of it. But I'm here for this. I love this stuff.
Great. I won't be too long. But the thing that really struck me at the time when they announced it was like again I've been using Android devices for a while now. At the time, phones and tablets and all that kind of stuff. And the idea and like they were very like functional at the time. It was like really kind of ugly. Like phones at the time, the operating system were kind of ugly. Like they were really. Functional, like they weren't trying to be like clean and simple and all that kind of stuff. It was just like, yeah, it's just here's the UI, here's this. It's kind of a lot of skeuomorphism all over the place. Skeuomorphism, for those who might not be aware of it, it's just like trying to replicate human sort of like physical objects within the digital environment in user interfaces, which can be quite off-putting. But when this material design thing was announced, especially on Android, a platform I was such a fan of, it was amazing. It was like seeing it was like seeing animation, like really playful, bold, colorful animation put in sort of functional context, which was like what? You can do that? That's legal? Like that's amazing. So it really struck me, and it's kind of a full circle moment, but every now and then we have a project where we do similar stuff like that, where we kind of create sort of like UI animations or like things that look like the sort of like the promos made for things like material design at the time. And yeah, I spent essentially a lot of my teen years just like going over the guidelines. They released these guidelines online to teach sort of like designers and developers how to like build and design apps for using the guidelines. And I would just go there, just like look at the animations and just replay them on loop. I'm like, oh man, that's so satisfying. And that was before I knew what that even was. So yeah, that's long story short. That was kind of my intro into sort of like the creative thing before I knew what it was. And then it's just been the pursuit of trying to recreate that feeling of like really playfulness and nimble movements within sort of like a flat, well, not necessarily flat, but like a very bold 2D style. And that, amongst other things, I've also evolved and grown a bunch from it. And there's a bunch of other references now I have that really like make me excited about learning more about motion design. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started.
Yeah, and you've really nailed it though. It's like, if anyone has a look through your Instagram, it's just like every single post just absolutely embodies that style. Like it's so clearly like rooted in your approach to your work. It's so nice. It's really, really lovely.
Oh dude, thank you. That means really strong. I mean that makes one of us that thinks that, because it still feels like I'm like, yeah, this is not it. Like it's that age old thing of like, that really it's not really quite what I want it to be, but it's it's a start. But so yeah, it means a bunch. Hopefully I'll improve and kind of get even closer to that goal, amongst one of the many goals I have for my visual design look.
Yeah, those who are watching or listening right now, just head to their Instagram and just leave leave some comments just saying how wonderful this is, because they are really, really good. And we need to boost Abraham's self-confidence here, because
thanks. Are you my therapist? Like,
wonderful.
What? My therapist.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because my milkshake is actually an imposter syndrome drink today.
Right.
I'm using it to try and, it's actually like somewhat of a cure for myself.
Right.
Yeah, there we go. Hopefully that'll help a little bit. I've just been feeling a bit imposter syndrome-y today.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's good. A good little top me up every now and again, just like a reposition myself in where I value myself in the world, and just sort of step back and go, actually, everyone's at the same position as I am.
Yeah.
Or not the same position, but it's in the same boat.
Well, it's funny you saying that, and that's one of the reasons why I was a bit like on the fence and a bit reluctant to like jump on this, because I'm like, because for context, Seb and I met, and hopefully we'll still keep meeting at this monthly animation club meetup in Brighton, and like and I go there and I'm like, oh god, what am I doing here? I'm not an actual animator. Like, I'm
ridiculous.
No, like, for context, right? Like, before we even get onto your portfolio, and like people get into animation to do the stuff that you do, right? Like the really cool dynamic like shots where you've got the cell characters just like Dragon Ball Z all over the place. Like, that's the shit people get into animation for, right? Like, and I think when you presented your work, I was like, oh fuck, what am I, like, I need to leave now. Like, this is crazy.
Oh no, that's not what I want.
But also, I think the first time I went, like, we had this talk from Formplay, an amazing studio, like also based in Brighton, and they do amazing cell work, and so that was them. And also, like, I had a, as the chats were over and we kind of mingled with other people, I was like, oh man, like, these people are actual like artists and like illustrators and animators, and I'm like, man, I'm making text fly on the screen for like money. Like, what is this? Like, this is crazy. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, definitely believe that milkshake, because your work really speaks for itself as well. So
take a sip, man.
Oh yeah,
have some, because you need it. Because it's like, I mean, I started with, oh yeah, good, yeah, congratulations. I started with motion graphics, and I love motion graphics. I can't get enough of it. And like, I wish I was at your level. It's just that I look at this and I'm just like, damn, like, I wish I had that kind of, that ability to see the things quite the way that you do. Like, I'm working on it, it's getting there, but it's just like, I look at yours and it's like, the design of that is just like, even if it's not moving, it's just so slick, just in its just singular frame aesthetics. And I think that for me, like, that's what I've got to really work on next, is really refining that. But obviously you have been practicing your art, I will use that word, in how you've like been studying all these like UI practices and sort of almost like satisfaction layout. It's all there. It's just, and your motion is wonderful as well. But thanks, man. I really appreciate that. And the irony of you saying all of that is that, like, I spent the early days sort of like, as I was dipping my toes into this creative stuff, trying to recreate that sort of like feeling of like simple 2D animations that like very like guideliney and all that kind of stuff, which is cool, right? Like, every now and then, like, I still enjoy that stuff. Like, it's actually like therapeutic for me, because like animation and motion design can be incredibly overwhelming. Like, I don't even need to mention that. So doing stuff like that can be so like, oh yes, just simple designs. I can just like focus on making the animation shine instead of worrying about a shit ton of layers and all that kind of stuff. But ironically, again, as I've sort of like evolved and like grown and kind of seen a bunch of other studios and individual artists, like I've like, you know what, I kind of want to do more expressive things. Like, I want to really break my mold of like clean, simple, guideline based animations. Like, I really want to start making more expressive stuff, and that's something I'm going to keep working on for years to come. But I've essentially started doing since uni, when I studied UX design for a year, and then I was like, nah, not for me. And then I switched over to graphic media design, and that's when I really like, okay, I'm going to explore
I'm gonna explore the shit I kind of have on my Behance mood boards and just like try a bunch of different things, still within my 2D flat lovey-dovey style or whatever, but also like I'm gonna mess around with 3D. I'm gonna like try with characters with like phases and shit. So yeah, being more expressive and a lot more dynamic, almost dare I say like your work. Actually, well, let's just try to say I'm trying to be a little bit more animated and expressive. To get to your level, I think I would need another lifetime, but that's a conversation for another day.
Well, it only took me was it 3 years? So you got 3 years, and you'll be
okay. Cool. Yeah. It might take me 8, but okay, that's a good estimate.
Yeah, but it's but that's it. It's like it's really nice to sort of you refine your like core focus, and then you just kind of like just stretch your arm into something that's just completely different, and then just sort of dabble in that for a bit, and then you're like, okay, I'll try this really completely different thing for a bit, and then when you do that, I find at least is you pull these really interesting pieces from trying that thing that then comes and feeds into your work. Like it's nowhere near what it was you were like trying, but like you learn and you pull specific things from having tried that, and it completely, for you at least, when I say you, I mean when you look at anyone who looks at their own work afterwards goes, it feels like a massive change, or I like look at my work with a completely different perspective now, when in reality like it still has your style, it still has your authenticity, but it's just from this, you've just taken on board this new perspective or this new way of approaching something.
Well said. I think perspective is actually a good keyword in the sense that like I think it was towards my final year of uni. Like I was not planning to get into 3D at all. Like I think I tried once with this app called Tinkercad, which was like, oh man, I'm gonna make my own 3D products and stuff like that. You know, when you watch those Apple adverts, you hear, what's his name? That British dude that always says aluminum, like in a really fancy way, like Johnny Ive. Yeah, Johnny Ive. He just makes everything sound super lush and like prestige or whatever. Like he could be talking about toilet paper and still make it sound sexy. Anyway,
if it's made with aluminium, I'm not interested.
Fair enough. But like I was going through a phase where I was like, oh man, I want to become an industrial designer, make like digital devices and stuff like that. So I got into Tinkercad, just like mess around with like CAD software and just see what I make. Like, cool. And that was like fun. Oh, cool. I'm like getting better at that. And then I went to like an open day for like a university that kind of offered industrial design. And I'm like, and you go through all the like an overview of the course and kind of what the industry is actually like. And then it took one open day, I kid you not, to make me completely change my mind. I'm like, I'm not doing this shit. Like it's way too much work. There's way too many steps and that kind of stuff. So that was kind of the end of my industrial design phase. But I think a year or so later, when I was finishing my first year at uni, we had to do this project, and I got introduced to Blender, and I was like, oh my god, like it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful piece of software. Context: it was before the 2.8. No, it was after 2.8. So it was So like 2.8 to me, it was like, oh my god. It's beautiful. I've never seen such a beautiful piece of software. Like it's like I'd used Cinema 4D before, and that was before R25, which looked really like gray and ugly and like skeuomorphic. Now it looks a lot better. Both look a lot better. And I was like, oh my god, it's so cool. So I started playing with that, and I'm like, oh, like I'm messing around with 3D. I'm really getting, I'm not particularly good at 3D. Frankly, not even at 2D. I kind of dabble in both, but the like just dabbling in 3D, like really getting used to like lighting and like composition with like 3D objects, and really think about scale and weight. It's something I was sometimes able to bring into my 2D endeavors, dare I say. And I was like, and I'm like, oh crap, like this I can see how these personal projects I did in Blender or whatever 3D app kind of translate to a better composition or a better framing, or like the fact that I'm using cameras more often. Like I'm literally thinking about a tiny little bit more about cinematography because I was working with like I was working with like fake cameras within the 3D environment, but it's something I was considering. So yeah, it's if anyone has the chance to mess around with different like domains, even within the same field, like dude, go for it. I God knows how often I need to do more of that to improve my work.
Yeah, it's as well. I think with 3D is it's just because like when you said you started with like Tinkercad way back when, but I think just having that little bit of experience from a younger age of just trying to understand perspective, it does so much. I think that more than people realize, having dabbled in 3D software, and if you want to be an illustrator or an animator of any kind, it just really helps you, like you say, like establish that perspective really clearly. So those of you who are listening, I say, look, just dabble in 3D as soon as possible. You don't have to go into it, but to have at least tried it and then try to like make a frame, try to export something in some capacity, or even just moving around the comp, it just sort of lets your brain sort of like just bridge that gap and like connect things, and then when it comes to either drawing or motion graphics work or even more 3D work, you just kind of see things a bit easier, I think.
It just kind of gives you an idea of what's possible. Like I think in school I was kind of known. I was quite like on the fence about a lot of trying different things. Like I went to university that was like really big on like printing and like press and all that kind of stuff, and I just don't care for that stuff. Like I can barely operate like a regular printer, but
and no one can.
No one can. Like it's always
everyone who does are lying.
Yeah, trust it. Like it's just like Control P. That should be enough. Let me just. It's like I was breaking
works,
right? But there was. And thinking back at it, I'm like, oh crap! Like I should have just like dipped my toes, and to a certain degree, I did. But there's such a like trying different things and just seeing what's possible. It really unlocks a lot of opportunities, even within like motion design, my day-to-day motion design sort of like workflows. I'm just like, oh man, I could just animate this thing manually. I don't have to worry about it. It's all good. Or hear me out, I could figure out an expression to automate some parts of this animation, and that could go a very long way and actually give me more flexibility down the line. So just give it a shot. You don't have to be great at, like, it doesn't have to be perfect or anything. Just like see what's possible, just to see what's possible.
Yeah, it's worth a dabble.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah.
It's like when I think it must have been 2020. I was just suddenly got super fixated into 3D printing.
Like you've got I think to your right I see a 3D printer. Am I wrong?
Oh, I do actually. Yeah. Just out of the shot of the ice cream parlor.
Yeah. There's just a random 3D printer just on the table.
It's just going.
It's just going.
But yeah, no, I think they suddenly came down to a price that was actually reasonable at that point, at least that I noticed. And I think being able to, because I used the excuse of 3D printing to force myself to learn to 3D model,
right?
And it just sort of like being able to then like make something, print something, and then hold it, then also did so much for me being able to like understand the perspective of an object, or like a skull or a head. If you like rotate it around, you've made it in this 2D format on a screen, and then but it's still in a 3D software. You take it through to your slicer, you print it out, and there it is. You can now hold it, and you can just see it with two eyes, and you get this 3D
amazing. It's like the feeling you get when, like, when when you watch Iron Man for the first time or something, and you're like, oh man, that is so cool. Like that, like this is it. I was destined for this shit.
Yeah.
And then you start 3D printing. Definitely, you're not going to save the world or anything, but it's like, damn, like I can feel this extension of my knowledge like into the real world. Like
it's so true.
I can build anything. I can achieve anything. Maybe not that far, but like
no, it definitely feels like it. You're absolutely right. You definitely get that first time watching Iron Man vibe. I think you summarized that incredibly well.
Yeah,
like, I am God.
I can do anything.
I can make life.
I think I had a similar. I have. Funny enough, 3D printing for me was quite painful in the sense that it was just like. You might know, you probably know way better than me, but it's just like it can be so disheartening when you like send this thing off to the printer and then like you wake up the next day and it's just like completely like messed up, like the resin is just all over the place, like something went wrong in the process. So it's not as iterating is takes a couple more steps than you would like compared to say digital art or digital animation or whatever. And for me, when I started dabbling more into digital animation, it was at college, when we started making like video productions and things. And up to that point, I was just like most people that just like consume stuff on YouTube. Or whatever, and I'm just like hitting the play button. I have no idea how this video is made. I have no idea what software was chosen or something. But everyone has an opinion. Everyone has like taste, like a little story in the head and ideas. But obviously, like only a small fraction of people actually make something with that, right? And that was kind of when the switch kind of flipped for me when we started making little projects in college. And I'm like, I'm making these little shitty videos for my coursework, and I'm like, the crap. But like, I look back at them and like cringe incredibly hard. But like, we made this. Like, this has got this idea that I had. It's just like it's on the screen and people can watch it. People can engage with it. People can trash it, and they probably will. But it's like it's done. It's like from my brain, from what I had in mind, into into a medium that people can consume. That's wild. That's like. That's what I don't know. That's incredibly cool. And I say this, I probably wasn't very cool in college. Just you can tell already.
The process is cool.
It is
like
really cool, man.
regardless.
It is really cool to film something, shoot it, edit it, and like get it out there. It's like, man, it's like it's the shit.
It's an underrated. I think in a lot of ways. I think people who don't. I think in our typical understanding of what creativity is, people who don't think creatively don't really understand that. I'm not sure if I mentioned this I think on other episodes, but I don't think I told you. It was my degree was in physics, but my like speciality and focus was actually on the neuroscience of creativity, but like in like a physics classroom, so it was still like loosely linked to the degree. But I like went completely into like what is the neuroscience of creative thinking and like where does it come from and all these things. And it's fascinating to think about what creativity actually is when you're talking about I had this idea for a project and I made it happen. It's like, how do you even get that? How do you get the idea to begin with? It's just this really, like, to try and explain this to someone who doesn't think creatively. Yeah. It's just like, it's just like a barrier. Yeah. It's very difficult to say. They go, what do you mean there's just an idea in your head? And you then just made it.
Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot. It's never like a black and white thing. You have an idea and then you turn it into reality. Like there's a lot of. I think the biggest part, and I think now more than ever with all these new tools. Can I say the A word on this? The AI word? I don't know. Yeah. I think especially now in this age where like craft and sort of like making things, whether with your hands or like actually like painstakingly make something on a computer. Feels like why do I need to do that? I can just write a prompt or whatever. Like I think that step of actually doing the thing is like that's where the magic happens, and it's painful, it's daunting, but like that's how you go from nothing to something, which is also the title of a really cool piece from a motion design studio called Vuko. But yeah, it's actually crazy. So your degree was in physics, you said, right?
Yeah.
And then you end up doing animation. Like, what? Your parents must be so proud. Like, that's amazing.
They're confused.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. We're proud. Like, my parents are very, very proud of my career. They're incredibly proud, as in very worried most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I think you absolutely hit hit the nail on the head there, which in terms of, you know, this concept of AI and all the fears, associations, uses, worries, problems with it, I think you've absolutely nailed this point in it. I think it's important for people to realize that it's the process of making something that actually refines it to what it should be, at least from who you are and what you can bring to it. I think that is something that we've got to not forget, is that this process of developing something and working at something iteratively and bringing it together, that process is where it happens. And to just jump that gap, it completely defeats the point of creating anything. So I think that's a really nice, reassuring way to think about it, and a very true way as well. Not just reassuring, but like it's important for people to like let that sit with them and just understand, you know, why do we do stuff? Why do we why do we make stuff, but what makes something great? You know,
and it's taken me I think it's something that a lot of my teachers, especially at uni, I went to like a really artsy uni that was banging on about process, fancy words, and like,
banging on about
like they would use always these like words that I would have had to then Google later, because I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like really esoteric and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. See, I'm starting to sound like them, but they're always banging on about like this process, and like that was literally quite key to every one of our submissions. Like the final thing, sure, fine, you've done it, but we want to see your like your process book, all the stages and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I have to do this too? Like, oh my god. And yeah, you know, it was a lot of work at a time, but like eventually, and now I'm not going to pretend I'm like I've fully internalized all of that and I'm like this master Shifu process guy or whatever, but like it really is, like now with all the stuff that's happening with technology, I'm like, no, like that is it. That is the thing. That is the meat of everything we do. Like you don't, like footballers don't just like, oh, I want to become a footballer and just like take some special serum and like, yep, I'm a footballer now, I play for Chelsea. Like that's not how it works. Like you have to go out into the field and like train every other day and like really practice, and you learn so much about yourself
and reflect on what and why. The what's and the whys, and reflecting on it.
Exactly.
It's just because I lecture at the film school at the moment, and it's the same thing. Like we try and push this, like this is your time to develop, and to develop best, you need to really take the time to
do the thing, like do the actual thing,
to reflect on the doing of the thing, and the choices, like the doing the thing. Because I think a lot of them get in their heads that it's just like, I'm here to make my short, my debut short. It's like, no, you're not. You will, but that's not why you're here. You know, like the why you're here is to understand why you're here, and to understand how you approach things and what's important to you as an individual and your creative identity as well. It's like once they like realize that, it's just like, let's go, you know. Like you can really like open yourself up and discover your approach creatively.
Chills.
So
gave me the chills. That took me right back to what my days at UAL, when I kept being scolded by my tutor, like, no, Abram, you have to think. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and again, that's a lesson I'm still very much learning to this day. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
We always are. It's just sort of reminding yourself, like, oh yeah, I can't just finish it. If I want to get better at something, I need to pause and think about it. Oh no.
Yeah,
I'm the same. I'm exactly the same as well. But yeah, I mean, sort of going back to like your work, because again, it is very good, and I find your work incredibly like satisfying, and obviously that is essentially what you were like studying when you were analyzing all these sort of Google designs and breaking apart all the UIs of Android and the new processors and things. But like, to you, like, what is it that makes an animation satisfying?
It's funny. That's it's something I've been asking myself like a lot more often these days. You know, with commercial work, you don't always get to be as expressive as you'd want to. and I'm like, oh crap, okay, like what is it about this piece that I keep referencing that I really like? Is it the design? Is it specifically the rhythm, like the choreography of the way things move? And even if it's not, like, I don't even do any character work yet. Maybe that's something I need to try. But a lot of the pieces that I love, it's the nimble movements. It's the way they morph between like different shapes, and like how they're really creative. Like it's not just the individual things that are animated really well and like really tastefully, but it's the entire scene that just feels like this nice choreography. Right? And everything is just really well thought out. Like the transitions are really well thought out. Things have been reused and transitioned with purpose. And if you ask me the same question 2 years from now, I'll probably articulate it much better. But I think it's something along the lines of like really meaningful movement, executed really well, and then like it's just really good design. Really characterful and expressive animation when appropriate, but at the end of the day, it's just like a really nice choreography. I think I would just sum it up like that: a really nice choreography. which is a weird way to describe motion design, but
yeah, no, I think you're right. It's like you should. It's everyone's process, I suppose, but like it's important to like almost storyboard. Even some of the most simplest of graphics, or what seem to be simple, because there's so many ways you can go about it, and really taking that time to find the approach is worth it in spades. Sorting that choreography out and combining that with the composition, I suppose. But like because you would do like 6 or 8 different versions. When you look at your some of your work, you post like 8 versions that you've done of a piece. Like, does that normally go off to someone else to choose the best one, or do you like make all 8, sit back and go like, okay, I want that one to be the final one? Have you ever tried that?
So the way it's actually, that's something I've been doing more recently, because I really, 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 really struggle with coming up with many ideas, like several, like more than 3 ideas. I think I really it's kind of weird to say.
No, it's really hard.
Yeah, it's really, really hard. Like, even for something as simple, you might be referring to like the logo animation I did for like the studios rebrand, but I really struggle to come up with many ideas, with more than like 3 ideas, say, and execute them like well, know? Because they kind of go hand in hand sometimes, often. But what I try to do is like I'll have one strong idea, like most people. I'm like, oh cool, like I reference. I'm kind of loosely referencing something else, or just this random idea I have in my head, and I'm gonna quickly sketch it. Like what I've started doing is like really, for a while now, I just sketch this brief thing on my notebook, which I've literally got in front of me in this beautiful milkshake parlor. And I'll sketch it down because it's so much faster to get the idea out on paper with like thumbnail sketches. And then I'm like, cool, so this is how it's going to play out. But I don't want to just like, especially if you've got like a whole day dedicated to this R&D phase. Like I'm not just going to do one. Like I'm going to as I'm already sketching, I'm going to sketch some of the idea. Like, hey, what if this noodle shape kind of burst into like 2 like noodles, and they kind of started like rotating on each other? Or wait, what if the noodle kind of dismantles into like a bouncing stroke? And like it's just like how many ideas can I come up with quickly on paper, and with some annotations obviously to help myself come back to it. And then I just, like, all of them are my babies. Like all of them are equally important. I mean, obviously everyone has a favorite child, but your parents don't tell you, but you might not be the favorite, just saying. Either way, like I come up with as many ideas and kind of give as much attention to each one of them as possible. But yeah, it's really all about quantity in these early stages, and then eventually once I start animating, I'm like, oh, actually, this is a lot harder than I thought. Let me try to let me try to finesse as many as I can, and then see what works. And then the benefit of being in the studio is that I can just like quickly share all of these with our creative director and other people in the team, and just like, hey, what do you think? Did he suck, or is at least one of them decent?
Yeah.
And you just get feedback, and it just kind of gets unpacked by everyone in the team, and like, okay, what if it does this? So it's kind of like you're building on your idea, and they are building on top of it, and it's just like hopefully something great comes out of it.
Yeah, it's really nice to like hear that sort of full breakdown of that process, because I think it's really underappreciated, like the stages that go into developing a final piece. For me the more important bit is, again, this goes back to the lecturer me, but also I love like studying how people think to then apply it myself if I want to like develop my own ideas. I think learning how people initially do that sort of divergent thinking process where they just come up with loads of different ideas, and how they go about those thinking processes is fascinating. Like this idea of like, you know, a mix of like, you know, you pull a couple of references in, and as you say, you know, how about if I had a noodle shape, and then what could happen if I just think about a noodle? What could happen to a noodle? You know, it's going to split, or it's going to bounce, or it's going to be like a worm, or it's going to twizzle around like a firework, or it's like, okay, let's bring a different shape in. You know, let's think of a circle, and maybe is it three-dimensional? Is it a sphere? Is it flat? If it's flat, does it change shape? If it changes shape, does it become spiky? Is it always round? Is it really bouncy? Is it solid? Is it heavy? You know, it's like you can just go boom with all these different spider webs, and I just love that thinking process. It's just there's so much energy you can.
And you're not and I think there's emphasis, at least for me, and obviously everyone's different, but I think there's so much to be said about like going through essentially all that excitement and sort of like ideation phase, like in a rough state, as roughly as you can. For me, it's paper. Like oh my God, man. Like I have literally sketched with like, okay, I don't know, probably you can't see it, but like I have tons and tons and tons. I challenge myself to sketch every other day, 15 minutes at least. But even without this, like for anything, I'm like sketching like a madman sometimes.
Yeah, that's so good.
Right? Like it's just like all the ideas just quickly on paper. You're not constrained by any software just yet. Like you're just sketching everything, and I don't know. Like I sometimes do this thing. I don't know. Maybe I should say this on live or whatever. But like sometimes you're like sketching the thing, and maybe you're like sketching a facial reaction, and like you're doing it live as you do. Like you're like kind of acting it out as you're sketching it, and it's like, oh my God, like it's so cool. And you just quickly do that. Sure, people thought I'm like on crack or something, but like I'm like deeply invested in this.
No, I think like sort of using like your hands or whatever you've got around you to like just sort of visualize the motion. I think that's a brilliant technique to do. So I do that if I've got like two characters. So I've been using it quite a bit where I've had two characters sort of flying and like trying to work out the camera perspectives. That I literally have my two of my hands in front of me, and I'm like meow, meow.
Nice, dude.
Just waving them around. And I'll do this on the bus as well.
Like, dude. Well, okay, maybe don't do that on the bus. I think that would be a bit.
I don't do the sound effects, but I do the waving around.
Can you imagine just like a grown-ass man just like going at the bus, like what a please.
To be fair, around where I am, it's not too indifferent. I'd fit right in.
Great. I want to be in that bus. But
they're all animators.
Yeah, that's great. If shit hits the fan, no one's going to be able to help. But we can make great sound effects. But yeah, it's actually great. Like I love these kind of conversations because I'm not I try to make really animated motion design work that is expressive. I want to break that mold of just the clean, gritty stuff. So when I saw your work in the animation club as well as others' work, and I'm like, oh man, it's so expressive, so dynamic. God damn, how do they do it? So you mentioning how you like act it out is actually really like this is gold. This is a golden nugget, and it kind of gives me a bit of solace and encouragement in keep doing what I'm doing in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tastefully, obviously.
Yeah, keep doing the hand stuff. Yeah.
yeah, right.
It's useful.
And because I've also noticed like every now and then I'll come across like an article online, and and I'll see like behind the scenes. Again, when I was a kid growing up watching Pixar stuff, like I just thought that stuff happened, right? Like I'm like, wow, do people have to animate stuff? Like then it doesn't just happen, which was a very naive concept as a kid. But like there's so much this like the behind the scenes of like Pixar animation, so DreamWorks, whatever, any feature length film or even short film, whatever, like just the process to go into like acting out like the things. I started following this guy who's like I think he's an animator for like Sony ImageWorks, and he was showing us how he was acting out like some of the sequences for the Spider-Verse, and I'm like, oh my god, that is insanely cool. Like he's just out there. Like, I don't know if anyone who's watched the Spidey Across the Spider-Verse, the second one, there's one of the at the beginning, like I think there's one shot where like Miles is just like trying to play it cool when Gwen Stacy just like comes into his room and he just rolls over his like desk of drawings and he's just like, no, I'm just chilling, and he's just trying to hide his desk. The reason that the animation came out so freaking well is because he, like the animator, acted that stuff out. Like and this is news for me, but for a lot of animators, probably like, oh yeah, of course we act out. That's like lesson one. But for me, it's just like, what, you act out and then you recreate it. That's brilliant. Like that's so brilliant, and I loved it. There was so much. Like they put so much of themselves into the acting and then translate that into animation. I'm like, oh man, in a different life, I would love to do this on daily, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because you can pull like an appropriate amount, because obviously you can use it as reference, and then you can exaggerate and repace and retime the things to make it like just, again, bringing it back to that satisfaction. You know, you've got your base there, but it's like, right, how can I move these frames or these movements around to really give them that either snap or weight
Bingo.
That helps to express that particular character.
Yeah. I did. It's actually a process and something I've been trying to do a lot more often. I'm a bit of a slow worker, but I think years ago, when I was in, I think like a uni, like it was like a sandwich year where we were kind of gaining experience. I think there's this project I did for months while I was at an internship. It wasn't related to the internship, but it was kind of in the downtime, and it's called Tickle. It was based off a reference from a studio called Ordinary Folk, which I love. I think there should be like a drinking game based on every time I say Ordinary Folk. But and I love that there was a specific shot animated by this I forgot his name, or their name, and I just love the way the particles were moving with so much vitality, and I just loved it. And I was just like, oh man, I kind of want to try to do something similar. And I remember recording myself. I need to put this in the right scenario and just like come up with this scene where this face just like spits out particles out of the mouth, and they're just like floating in space and everything. Literally, it's Tickle. Is like I was quite proud of it, and I recorded myself doing all of that in my room. And I'm just like, I'm doing that. Okay, you guys probably can't see me, which is great for you and good, but like I'm just like. I'm doing all the vibrations and stuff like that, and it like looking back at the video was like really cool, because I was like, that's how you notice, like that's how you, and it, like I was my overshoots were kind of better, and but also like tension, like it was like a lot more realistic if I had just tried to just wing it without any references. Yeah, it was just it's recommended. People might think you're a bit like screwed up.
No.
But those
if they do, they don't understand the process, man.
Exactly. Those that know will know. It's all good.
Yeah. They'll just put a hand on that person's shoulder and just let him cook. he's doing what he needs to do.
A process with a Master Chief voice.
Yeah. So sort of rounding up here. I mean, do you sort of looking back at your sort of route and where you came to where you are today, as you say, you're like, I'm still improving, we all are, but like still looking back, like is there any advice that you would like sort of give or hand down to the younger you? Is there anything which you kind of like taken on since that you'd like to give yourself a nudge with?
Oh, that's a really good question. If I could, I think a piece of advice I would probably give my younger me is just to just try everything and not be afraid of failing. And that's very much something I would tell my younger self, as well as myself today and myself next week and a month from now. Like, just I think there's something. Most of like, it's funny. Like, and I was gonna ask you this later actually, but I keep doing this thing where I'm like, every time I speak to animators, artists, or whatever, I'm like, how did you improve? Like, how did you improve? And the thing is, I actually know, I have the answer. I know how you improve. You just by doing the work and trying different things and failing, and you almost like every now and then I go through this phase where I think, oh, maybe there's something, there's this routine or there's this magical thing that's gonna make me better, like in a week compared to other people. I'm like, no, you just have to like sit down and do the thing and improve, and just like you just have to like do the thing, fail a couple of times, like keep failing, and then hopefully like that just leads on to improvement. And that's how you improve, by just trying different things, not being afraid of failure. Because I think, and this is something that it's taken me a very long time to internalize and really understand, but like, you're not failing when the animation doesn't come out right or the design looks shit. You fail when you don't even try. Like, that's real failure. Like, not the fact that it came out shitty, but the fact that you didn't even try. If you gave it a go and you stuck at it and just tried your best, I think that's a massive win, and that's something I wish I'd realized sooner. And I'm hopefully gonna internalize.
Yeah, get that process or that approach ironed in. I suppose it's like when you say like failure, I think my perspective on that is like, you know, you might perceive failure as it not coming out to a satisfactory level that you would have wanted it to. And I'd say in those situations, it's that in my understanding of it would be the failure happens when you don't reflect on the why it didn't meet where you wanted it to be. Because I think as long as you are taking that time to like evaluate it and really understand and break down the whys it didn't work for you, then it's technically it's learning, it's building, and it's leading to creating this winning piece in the end, or this winning approach that you do. I think that's it really. It's like, why didn't that work?
Yeah,
and then
100%, 100%. Yeah, like it's just trying different things, you know, regardless of how it goes, and really being reflective about it, and not just like just keep making shit for the sake of making shit, which is I'm 100% guilty of that. I probably still will, but for a bit of time. But like every now and then, I think that's something that's actually really gotten me to some places. Like, again, I'm not sure how I managed to get a job in anything really, but one thing that's managed to help,
because you're good.
yeah, a bit of luck there, but the things I think in hindsight that really managed to help me improve was definitely trying different things, but also like showing my process, as well as and in showing my process, you actually go back and reflect. I'm like, oh man, I remember I was making these experiments, these early tests. Maybe I should have made more. And just going back to the process is another form of like reflecting on the work, and that hopefully will inform the next set of projects or endeavors or whatever. And not just like trying different things in the creative domain, but also like in life. Like, not to get too deep, but I think just try everything and not be too preoccupied with what people are going to think, or like you're going to look a bit silly. I'm like, you know, like, yeah, there's so much value in just like trying different things and not worrying about everything and anything. Just do the thing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's really good advice as well, actually. Yeah, I think that's it. Just sort of, was it letting go of your ego as well? It's just like, just I think when you do try different stuff, it really does give you so much more to work with as a creative as well. Like, if you are thinking purely along the mind of how can I optimize my creative thinking, then it is, you know, you will do that in the essence of just trying lots of stuff, as well as it being really good for your life as well. You know, double whammy.
Yeah, exactly. And there's this song I listen to every now and then by this band called AJR. It's literally called 100 Bad Days, and it's the whole point of the song. Well, I'm not much of a song analyst or whatever, but it doesn't take long for someone to understand that the point of the song is like, you may have failed 100 times, but at least you're going to be very interesting at parties because you'll have 100 stories to tell. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that.
It's just, yeah, that's going to make you far more, I think, interesting, but also like a lot more knowledgeable, I guess. Like,
yeah, it does. Yeah, it builds up your base knowledge. You're
Yeah.
right. Any kind of experience.
Yeah.
Spot on there as well.
Yeah.
And with regards to, you know, what you have planned next, if anything.
Yeah.
You know, what are you working on? What have you got in the horizon?
Yeah. I think for me it's I think I want to. So right now I've got like a little tiny little wave of projects that I would be keen to share, because I don't know, I feel like I've been doing a lot of work in the background, both at the studio and out like on my own personal stuff, but I'm just like, no one knows about it, and it's like my portfolio is actually, like, for me, like, it's, yeah, sure, to like get jobs and whatever and to show people what I can do, but like the thing about my portfolio is that it's very personal. Like it's for me to reflect on the stuff I've done and like look back. Like most of the views from my bee hunts or whatever, they probably come from me, because I'm just going back and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, am I improving? Like I go back to these projects, I'm like, okay, how did I approach this and that? And I want to update my portfolio with like stuff that I'm hopefully proud of, or even if it's not great, I just want to share it so I can look back at it and learn from it. But more longer term, I think I want to, I've been a bit lost in the sense of, like, you know, you do a lot of commercial work and it can be a bit soul crushing, you know, like you kind of sometimes forget why you got into the game in the first place. So I think I want to take a bit of a step back and really go back to the references that got me into motion design, the more expressive stuff, and really kind of build projects based off that. But more practically, taking courses, my bag of tricks is getting a bit old and I really want to learn some new things. Maybe dabble in some basic character animation, maybe mess around more in 3D and see how I can combine it with 2D, but really have a solid and a better workflow for like timing and spacing, really train that a bit more. I don't know how that's gonna look like. So yeah, really focus on the foundations and really go from there. I've got a little personal project I'm working on. That's since the beginning of the year. I'm like 50% of the way there, and it feels like it's never ending. Literally, if I wasn't talking to you today, I would either be doing that or like out skating or something.
Nice.
Thanks.
All good options.
Yeah, all good options, right? Yeah. So hopefully in the next, I want to say, month or two, hopefully share that with the world. No one will care, and that's okay, because it's for me, really.
It's for you.
It's for me, yeah.
And if people care, it's always a nice bonus.
Yeah, exactly. If people watch it, it's nice, but it's just to prove to myself that I still, like, this is what I like, and just it's a reminder for myself. So yeah, that's it. And then yeah, that's really it. But outside of work, I think I've spent a lot of time focusing on work and really attaching a lot of my self-worth to the work, which is not good. And ever since I moved to Brighton to join the studio, you know, I've been lucky. Like, I'm looking out the window of this beautiful milkshake parlor. I'm looking out the window and I'm like, there's so many beautiful things to do. There's so many interesting people to see, to speak to, like yourself and so many others. And I really want to, it's the never-ending pursuit of trying to like strike a better work-life balance to really make the most of my time here in Brighton and really connect with people. I think that would be, it's all, I don't know how I'm going to go about it. I'll have to really get out of my shell and do things and be more extroverted and stuff like that, because I'm really introverted, but yeah, I think that's, in a nutshell, really get back to the fundamentals and really taking a step back and like do personal projects that kind of remind me of the stuff that got into the game, as well as like really connecting more with people around me and really do that.
Nice. I mean probably a good thing to do would be, having watched the other episodes of this, you know, just reach out to the people on these things, because they're all great people and they're all wonderful to chat to. So hopefully everyone listening and yourself can just sort of start to build up a little animators network. Essentially.
Yeah, and dare I say, like, I think network kind of has this weight to it, like, oh, we need to get something out of each other. Like,
true.
Personally, I don't. Again, I'm no one out there. Like, I don't know what I can offer to most people network wise, but
friendship.
Yes, exactly. That's the
power of friendship.
That's what I was getting at. I think I'm not even interested in networking or like trying to just kind of climb whatever creative ladder or whatever. But I think just really getting to know other people and like what makes them tick and really connect on a personal level would be sweet. Yeah, that's it.
And where?
Sorry,
go on. Sorry. No, you.
I'm mindful of time, but I actually had some questions for you. I'm not going to ask all of them because otherwise we'll stay here for another 2 hours. But one of the things that struck me about your work from the get-go was sort of when you presented your feature film sort of progress at the Animation Club. And I've been really, really, really struggling for a while, and since uni, because obviously now I'm working full time, and that has a lot of perks, but also like you have a significantly less time to focus on your personal stuff, and and my personal stuff is child's play in comparison to your endeavors. Like, you're working on a feature film. I'm just trying to make some like 3-second loops and stuff like that, or like explore some like compositions and whatnot, and I'm struggling to find time for that. And I'm just curious, like, how do you approach making time for your personal projects with everything that you've got going on? Like, if I'm not wrong, like you're contracted as a physics teacher, and
many things.
Yeah, and you're like freelance animator. Like you like freaking. You do everything, and how do you manage to carve out time for your personal projects and not lose momentum or steam?
Tell us the cheat code.
Yeah, what is this? What substance are you taking to really
up, down, left, right, square, triangle, X?
That's brilliant. I'm gonna say
it. A time turner. No, I try to block out like portions of time that I just know that are going to consistently be put towards certain things. So like I would always block out a Saturday to work on said feature film, or if I've got a short film in the works, I'll block out half of the day to a short film, half on the feature. So it just sort of, with that kind of regularity and that pattern, I think by sort of dedicating certain days to certain things or certain parts of a day, I think it does a lot. It does a huge amount, at least because you know what you've got coming up. Even if you're like, okay, I'm going to be lecturing at this film school from 10 till 4 or whatever, but I've got a 2-hour bus ride there and a 2-hour bus ride back, and I've got Clip Studio Paint on my tablet or whatever. I'm just going to work on the roughs for that scene on the bus because it can be messy. It's like, it's sort of just thinking about where the time is,
right,
and then really breaking that down. That's definitely something I put a lot of work into. Sure. I think you have to stay alive in this economy, plus also make. But it's not. I wouldn't say that I found the magic answer yet. Like, I'm still getting there with my other companies and things to be a bit more self-sufficient and letting them carry the income. But yeah, I think the main thing that anyone can do is just think about the time that you've got and just really break down, is there that 30 minutes I spend on a train or on a bus? Is there anything I could be doing, in these little moments, and identifying where those times are? Is there any time where you're like, I have just wasted all that time and not done anything? I just sat there on TikTok or whatever and been scrolling. I'd class skating as very useful, anything like that. So don't get rid of that.
No. Yeah, gotta get out of the house. At some point.
Yeah, that's it.
One last one, I promise. I'm quite curious. Like, what prompted you? Like, and maybe I'm completely way off now, so correct me if I am wrong. But what prompted you to go freelance, despite all the challenges it comes with? There's a lot of benefits to it, but like, running your own thing, and like, why go freelance as opposed to working in house, or did you do both and just preferred one over the other? Like,
I don't think I've really got a preference. I think just given my situation where I'm located, there isn't really anywhere around. Otherwise, I probably would. And to be honest with you, those listening, I am still currently looking for work over the summer. Right. So it's not like I'm not looking, but it's I just sort of do all sorts, really. So whatever comes up, I'm like, yeah, right. That seems appropriate for the now. So I don't think I've scratched off the idea of working in house. I think that's definitely still a thing, but still working it out. But there's lots of benefits and disadvantages to all of them, really.
Yeah.
But yeah,
grass isn't always green on the other end. From what I've heard from others, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. You just try things out for a bit, and I think at least what I've had to reassure myself is that it doesn't have to be the only thing you do, because I think actually, you know what, this is probably more of a useful answer, is like I need something that has variety in the point that not just like the projects but like the thinking processes. I need to be doing a bit of one completely different thing and then something else that's completely different, so that my brain can take a gap from thinking about a certain type of process, because then when it does that, it's able to like rest or think about something passively in the background, and then I can approach it new. And that's kind of like why I dance between animation and physics and teaching and things like that.
Like, so both like really extreme and
yes, completely shut it off. But yeah, so I'd say that'd be the why I sort of do part-time over full-time. I need that bubble around. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. And my last question for you is, where can people find you if they want to say hello?
So my address is in Brighton. No, I mean, yeah, you probably don't want to do that. But so my main portfolio is probably on Behance. That's where I keep most of my larger projects, and I kind of tend to be a little bit more detailed with those. So my Behance is, I don't know at the top of my head, which is pretty embarrassing. I have to Google that myself. Give me 1 second. Technical fault. So my Behance is actually, if it's just behance.net/Abraham-E. So, and then I think once you find the Behance on the left side, all my Instagram, Vimeo, LinkedIn, if you even use that, I don't know, and Dribble, I don't even use that anymore, but all my social links are kind of on the Behance, and maybe one day I'll get that Cara app everyone keeps getting. But now that's where most of my work is, and yeah, I'm looking back at it. I'm a little bit proud of it. There's some really nice, there's some decent stuff in them. I'm sort of proud of. I have a lot of memories attached to those projects. So I don't know, if you're bored and you want to check out some shapes flying on the screen, feel free to check out my Behance or not. That's fine.
Always ready for that. Yeah. I need to wake up with a bit of that with my cereal. Just like, I need some shapes flying around. Where do I find Abraham?
Oh, dude, before going to bed, that's what I do. I'm just like, it's not day if I don't do that.
Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today, Abraham. I hope you enjoyed your milkshake, bringing you back to your old days with the coconut flavours and all that good stuff. And I'm feeling like my imposter syndrome. It's wearing off today. It was heavy on me today, but it's going away thanks to this milkshake.
Oh mate, with work like yours, I think I would just looking at the work would kind of get rid of the imposter syndrome. You put the hours in, and it shows. You're really meticulous with your time. I've learned quite a bit just talking to you, and it was very much my pleasure. So,
cheers, man. Well, again, absolute delight, and hopefully, maybe have you on again in the future. Who knows?
Ooh, I don't know if people want to even listen to me talk again, but sure.
Of course they do. But yeah, absolute delight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and have a lovely rest of the day, man.